This is a special video for reaching 50 subscribers. I have 50 minutes to build. Hey, it's Muffin. Thank you all very much for helping me reach 50 subscribers, and hopefully we continue growing. With this being the first milestone, having reached 50 subscribers, I wanted it to be a special video, with the concept being 1 minute for every subscriber, thus being the 50-minute time lapse that we're seeing today. Due to the short time frame of the build challenge, I stuck to my strong suit, which is the medieval theme, and I located a bit of land that I wanted to use, having a concept in mind of a circular walled village. I first found a bit of land, cleared it out, terraformed it a bit, and made a rough perimeter using stone walls, which I then made into 2 layers of stone walls. And with that being done, I needed to have some towers, so I proceeded to make a small base layout, just to make sure that when I go further into the build, my builds are asymmetrical and I don't have any issues of symmetry later on, so a little bit of pre-planning is required. The tower was quite simple to build, but that also meant that it was kind of realistic because it was more so focused on efficiency. It's always interesting to see how well one of my builds will do in survival. Say you were within it and you had to defend against pillagers or a zombie horde outside, or archers. I think by implementing real strategies and defense into Minecraft, we might be able to see similar results to real life. But yeah, so the tower was quite straightforward to build, and with it being replicable across the build, I just made one template and then copy pasted it across. As always, to break apart the 2D nature of Minecraft, I always add some further details, but these are very basic ones, just with some stone walls to create some difference in the depth, and a little ring of stone bricks around the outside just to give it more structure. But yeah, I pasted these across, with the entrance being on the inside, as that is more sensible than it being on the outside. Because I didn't have much time, I relied highly on copy pasting the blocks. Over here I just removed it quite quickly, and I'll bring it back, but I did it to find the center of this build, and in doing so I was able to make a copyable template. When making templates for copyable builds, it's always important to do as much detail in one go, otherwise you'll just be repeating the process over and over again, and it won't be efficient. And as this challenge was all about efficiency, I had to think on the go on what methods I can implement to make sure that all my builds are done within the time frame. So after making one template, I then located where the center point of this build was. I earlier marked it out with a stone, but here I'm just double checking. Going back to that stone, I then just copy pasted it by rotating it 90 degrees 3 times. And I tried rotating it once more at a 45-degree angle, but I didn't quite like it. And I thought the look of the structure right now is sufficient. the next step was to establish a level for both the inside and the outside of the walls, just so that when I'm building there is no difference in height, and that any floating parts of the build can be blended in gently into the surrounding terrain on a later time if I don't get everything done in time. But yeah, now that there was a base established, I felt that the next best part to add character to the build was to add the paths, just so I can block out what I wanted to. So I felt maybe there should be a keep on one side and a few houses scattered around. I wasn't quite happy with how tall it was initially. So then I proceeded to create a smaller first level, smaller ground level, and a small tower poking out of it. This goes back to one of my previous YouTube videos where it was all about how to build and some tips to make your builds better. And in this particular build, I'm just repeating those steps. First I started with the layout, and then I moved on to the roofing. And once I was happy with the roofing, I then started adding more details to the build. But we'll get to that when we get to it. One of the things I messed up in making this build so quick was that the tower was not symmetrical in all regards. It was one block too long, and so when I rotated it, it looked a bit odd because it wasn't quite sitting correct. But adapting on the go, I just made the front one block wider. Around this time, I'd spent about 30 minutes or so building, with most of the time having gone into the terrain, and I'd realised that I'd have to start picking up my pace if I wanted to complete it within the 50 minutes. Despite making the rough outline of the roof, it then came to adding some more details to it. So along the edges and near where the tower would start, I added these small rises, and using different angles I was able to create some kind of blend between the different levels of the roof. One of the issues here was that all the roofs are at different heights, and to connect them together I had to use different angles to kind of blend the various angles of the roofs together. And what that achieved was some kind of flow between the different roofs, so it looks more natural. At this time I'd established that although I'm making it out of white wool, I want it to be stone at the end, which is why I used the stone walls as accents. I like these small roofs that I added above the windows, because not only does it break apart the flatness of the walls, it also adds a burst of colour in the otherwise white background. And it's more so just continued by adding fences for the windows. Now, knowing that I had to make houses within this area, I didn't have enough time, because at this point it was around the 40-minute mark, and having only 10 minutes to go, all I could do was just build one house and copy paste it, rotate it a little bit, just try and make do with what I could. So in the rush again, this house was not symmetrical. By symmetry I mean that it's not at an odd block count. With it being even, it means that your peaks for the roofs do not come to one block, but they come to 2 blocks. And that kind of breaks your symmetry, because then your roof doesn't have that feeling of coming to a point at the top. But I had no time to correct it, so I just had to push through and add enough detail so that your eye would not catch the mistake. Now, although I knew that these houses were going to be white to stand out from the rest of the build, I still wanted to tie it into the surrounding walls and keep. And I did that by adding the stone walls as accents, because I felt it would subtly blend all the colours together, so that there isn't that appearance that your houses are all of a sudden just standing out, that there is no consistency. So after adding some further variation to the blocks, just by swapping out the white wall, I quickly went around and started pasting it all over the place and rotating it and adding roads in to kind of make it feel more busier and more warm. Now, having a lot of area still left, I felt that the quickest way to make the empty area feel more inhabited was to add trees everywhere. Now, with the white wall, I was able to quickly change it back to the stone bricks, and now selecting all the build, I could quickly convert the entire stone structures to a block palette that is quite close but has variance in it. And with that variance, it gives that impression of age and imperfection. And so I repeated that same process for the roofs. At the 50-minute mark, this is what I was able to accomplish. A good layout of the city, along with a lot of builds, a keep, and strong walls with small towers in it. But I wasn't quite happy, and so I went forward, and although it was over the 50-minute mark, I started blending in the terrain so that it's not all floating. And also because I had a picture where I wanted the agriculture and more vegetation to surround this area. And so I spent the next couple minutes, around 15 minutes or so, just making it feel more alive. Adding trees again quickly takes up a lot of the land, and it makes it feel as if though the area is overgrown. And by quickly adding some farms, it gives that sense of life to the town. A lot of builds ignore this part, but this is what brings your build to life. And with every one of my builds, I wanted to feel alive, that were you to come across this in survival or to see this in real life, you would feel that this place is actually inhabitable. So after 50 minutes and a bit more building, this is what I was able to create. Presents a small circular walled town with one keep and farms along the outside to act as sustenance. Just small farms to feed the small population. If you enjoyed the video, please do drop a like, leave a comment, and if you're enjoying this and would like to see more, please do subscribe. But most importantly, have a good day. Thank you for the 50 subscribers.